Welcome to the Workforce Wire podcast, brought to you by Employ Prince George's, bridging the gap between job seekers and businesses. And now, here's your host, Walter Simmons.
Welcome to the Workforce Wire, brought to you by Employ Prince George's. I'm your host, Walter Simmons. Today on the Workforce Wire, we have our youth program facilitation specialist, Mr. Martin Copeland. Welcome to the Workforce Wire, Martin. How are you doing today?
Thank you, sir. I'm doing really well. How about you?
I'm doing well. So the Workforce Wire, we are bringing real world examples, real world professionals, tips and techniques and best practices that local workforce area staff, job seekers, and employers can utilize to improve their local workforce system and overall be the bridge between job seekers and businesses. Disconnected youth is the topic. Mr. Copeland, tell us who you are.
Okay, so again, my name is Martin Copeland, and I am an educator. At the core of who I am, I'm an educator, and specifically, I educate outside of the public school system classroom. So I've spent probably 10 or so years in nonprofit land doing post-secondary prep, so college access, workforce development, things of that nature.
Okay. So in the workforce realm, with the changes to the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act and the requirement for a majority of funds to be directed towards opportunity youth or out-of-school youth 18 to 24 that are not enrolled in school or education, many local workforce areas and local jurisdictions are trying to figure out how to engage and prepare disconnected youth for employment. And that is something that Employ Prince George's in Prince George's County, Maryland, has been practicing for the last 4 or 5 years. And this is what we're going to discuss today. Specifically, Employ Prince George's has a program called Knowledge Equals Youth Success. And KEYS is designed to help out-of-school youth get on the right track towards their post-secondary goals, career goals, or just really navigating life. Martin, tell us a little bit about the KEYS program.
Sure. So for KEYS, disconnected youth are defined as 18 to 24-year-olds who are not currently connected to full-time employment, which we define as 40 hours a week in benefits, or educational opportunities. So they're not in college or trade school or anything of that nature, and they're between the ages of 18 and 24. What we do with young people in our program, KEYS Careers, we offer them the opportunity to get employability skills training. Some people may call it workforce readiness, things of that nature. They do that for 8 weeks. We make sure that they are absolutely ready for the workplace. They're professional, they're confident, they know how to engage. After that, they successfully complete that 8 weeks. They have two options. You can do a 12-week internship. We pay them. We partner with businesses in the community who give them these opportunities, or they can do a training program. So our young people who say, I want a CDL or I want to be a certified nursing assistant, we pay for that training for them.
Okay. So one of the things that I hear across the country when I'm at conferences, when I'm in the DC metropolitan area, is people cannot get youth into their program. So we are the largest, Employ Prince George's is the largest WHEEL with Title I youth provider in Prince George's County. What has been your program's success on engaging youth and actually getting them to enroll and even return phone calls after you think they're enrolled into the program?
So if I could be honest, there is no one secret. There's a lot of secrets because the truth about disconnected youth is, unlike in-school youth, you can go to a high school and recruit in-school youth directly from the high school. Disconnected youth most of them have graduated, some have not, but they may be, chilling at home. They may be on a basketball court. They may be working part-time jobs. There's no one specific place that you can go to find all of the disconnected youth in Prince George's County. So we have to go to all of those places. So we look at what are the barriers to employment that disconnected youth are serving, and we go to where those barriers are. So one of the barriers, for example, is that young people in this age range may be pregnant or parenting. So we go to places that serve pregnant and parenting young people, and we partner with them to recruit folks into our program. Or we may go, another barrier to employment is having a criminal history. So we may go to parole or probation officers or organizations that serve adjudicated youth to partner with them. So To be honest, all the other thing we do, we'll go beat the streets. We'll go to the mall. We'll go to the barbershops. I've been to almost every barbershop in Central Prince George's County recruiting for young people. Our outreach and recruitment team has been to every high school's graduation or graduation a rehearsal ceremony.
So what you would say is you said it, there's no one secret, there's no one technique. It's effort. It's beat the streets. So we actually have a beat the streets team that includes outreach staff, program staff, management.
We will go to police stations. We will go to rec centers. I'll tell you where we go. We go to elementary schools. You want to know why?
Why elementary schools?
Because those pre-K classrooms, those young people, those babies have parents. Those babies have parents who might be between the ages of 18 and 24. So we partnered with some elementary schools in the area to put out our flyers and tell their parents about this opportunity.
So listeners, this is one thing the reason why I brought Mr. Copeland on the show is a lot of people put a box on recruitment and say, this is where you need to go, the adult ed programs, and you need to go to the malls. But this population is everywhere. And one thing that we need to clarify is we're talking really about Generation Z. It pains me when people start talking about disconnected youth and they say millennials. Millennials are 38 years old. These are not the people that are in your disconnected youth program that are 18 or 19 or high school dropouts. I'm a millennial. You know, so the biggest issue that I would say is, one, we're talking about Generation Z.
Yes.
When we're talking about Generation Z, we're also talking about people who are all across your local area. They're not in one defined place. So you just have to really increase your engagement and community engagement with the workforce system. And we would talk about anything that you think you used to do. It sounds like what you're saying, Martin, is throw that out the box, throw it away, and just start doing everything. Barbershops, elementary schools, pre-K, skateboard parks, even if it's a homeless shelter, wherever you need to go, you just need to be everywhere. And, we used to talk about this when, years ago when you do a job search and you would just go to a strip mall, you print out your resume and you knock on every door. Yep. That sounds like what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, and I have to shout out one of our outreach and recruitment specialists, Miss Michelle Evans. She has brought it to our attention that we can't just recruit directly to our population. We have to recruit to the people, the community around our population. So Miss Evans will go out and recruit at events. She'll recruit for keys at events designed for 50 plus. Why? Because those 50 plus people have grandchildren who might be eligible for our program.
I say that all the time. We had a meeting recently, and one of the contractors we were working with said, well, who are you targeting? I said, we're targeting the world.
Yes,
because the majority of workforce areas and workforce systems don't have marketing budgets. And the majority of people hear about their programs from word of mouth. So we need to talk about disconnected youth and programs for out-of-school youth and high school dropouts to people who have jobs, to people who are retired, to businesses who are employing people, because most likely every single person that you come in contact with knows a disconnected youth. Absolutely. They know a young adult that needs help. But in saying that, what is your personal take on when you get a youth in your program? A lot of people struggle with kids or calling them youth. I hear you say a lot of time young adults. Or I actually hear you say sir or ma'am to somebody who is 15 years younger than you.
Absolutely.
Talk about how do you address what is the label, kid, youth, sir, ma'am, young adult, when you're engaging this population, and how do they respond to the label that we place on them?
So as a program, there's a couple answers. As a program, we have decided to address people by title, Mr. or Miss, and we use sir or ma'am or whatever just to give respect. Now, when we talk about respect with young people, there's a couple different definitions, but the first definition of respect that we use in our program is dignity. Everybody is afforded dignity when they come into this program. And now the other definition is honor. We may give honor to elders, or we may give honors to people of a certain position, but everybody, regardless of age, deserves dignity. So that's why when you see an 18-year-old person come into our door and they may not be polished, they're still Mr. Jones or Miss Jones, and they're still respected because for a lot of our young people, they're coming in not feeling great about themselves, or coming from backgrounds where they have been disrespected in some way, and they may have authority issues because they may not have been handled well by authority before. So it's important to build rapport. We can't do anything until they trust us. And one of the ways we get them to trust us is we let them know you're deserving of dignity right off the bat.
So it sounds like you are building rapport through respect.
Absolutely.
I really think that people in the workforce system across the country need to understand that. And I think that has really been a part of our success, is that you have to start addressing these young adults as people and as residents of our society that deserve the same respect, regardless of their circumstance, than as you would a business owner. My father used to tell me you treat the president of the company with the same respect that you give the janitor of the company, the same respect you give the president of the company. And that translates into to workforce programs. So one of the things that I would really talk with our listeners about is, once you engage a youth or a young adult, treat them as you would treat your peer or colleague. Absolutely. And you're going to see an increase in enrollments. If you want to know more about the Employ Prince George's out-of-school youth program, Knowledge Equals Youth Success Keys, how can they find you on social media?
You can find us on all platforms, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, PGC Keys Program. PGC Keys Program.
All right. So speaking of social media, so many people are saying, oh, I don't do social media, or I don't know social media is for young people. But I think what we've seen is more local workforce areas utilizing social media because they're understanding the power to connect. How is Keys using social media to connect with youth? What have you seen? What are your successes? What are failures that you have experienced that are now allowing you to make changes to your social media engagement strategy?
So this is a loaded question, because one of the things, and you said it, but I want to reiterate, one of the things you have to understand about recruitment is our young people don't exist just in the flesh, just in, they don't just exist in the store or, at church or at home. They exist online. This is where they live. This is where they interact with the world. So it is important that if you want to get them, you have to exist where they exist. So the first thing we did is we created an Instagram account, and we engage on Instagram. We are
Instagram.
Yes.
So before we get into that, when we're talking about 18 to 24, yes, there's so many social media. There's Snapchat, Instagram. I saw where Lil Nas X was on like some kind of new Snapchat. Yes. What social media? Somebody told me that Facebook's for old people. And I remember when I started with MySpace, and Facebook was for young people. Right, exactly. So what, before you go into it, what are the social media platforms that young people in this population use?
All right, so I'm going to break it down for everybody.
What's number one?
The number one is Instagram, because Instagram is number one in the world for everybody. Like, Instagram is ruling social media, and I'm not going to quote certain demographics because I don't have the exact figures in my head. But for that sort of 18 to 36 demographic, Instagram is it.
You hear that, people? When you hear people say they're on the gram, we're talking about Instagram, IG, the gram, Instagram, the number one platform that Mr. Copeland is recommending to engage this population. Give me number two.
Number two is going to be Snapchat. Now, I will admit this before I say this. Keys is not on Snapchat.
How do you Snapchat about a youth program?
And that's the thing. If I can be honest, we have tackled and been successful with a lot of stuff. We haven't figured that out yet. We have not figured out how to snap, how to make that. The challenge with Snapchat is that if you're going to do it successfully, you got to be on Snapchat constantly. You got to be on there, and you have to engage.
How long is a snap? Like 30 seconds?
Like 30 seconds and
10 seconds. So Arian Tyler is our producer in here. She's saying 10 seconds. So this is the Workforce Wire. This is why we created this podcast. We want to engage our local stakeholders to let them know about our programs, but to also engage with our partners from across the country. So you can find Employ Prince George's at Employ PG on all of our social media platforms. If you hear this podcast right now, tell us how we can use Snapchat. because our goal is to engage in everybody to perfect what we're doing, but we don't have all the answers. So one thing that we need your help with is how can we utilize Snapchat to engage our disconnected youth populations? Let the Workforce Wire know. Let Employ Prince George's know. Number 3, Mr. Copeland.
Before we go to number 3, let me say something quick about Snapchat. One of the other reasons we've made a conscious decision not to use Snapchat is because there is a such thing as being too hip. So I want to speak to that. At your workforce development program, be authentic to who you are, to your brand. You have to appeal to your target demographic, but you also have to be authentic. We would be inauthentic because we're working at desks all day. We're doing a lot of work in our cubicles or in our offices, trying to Snapchat all day. We're not with youth 24/7. So that's why for us at this moment, Snapchat doesn't work. But when we get one of the things we're going to do is we're going to have our youth participate in doing Snapchat takeovers, because that's where you get the real engagement, is when the young people are interacting on Snapchat.
Letting the participants take over the key Snapchat.
With supervision. But yes, absolutely.
I feel you. What would you say? Do you think, I always talk about leveraging resources.
Yes.
Do you think it's a good opportunity for programs to use summer youth employment interns or college students who are home on break as their social media, let's call them your social media summer directors?
Absolutely. And here's the thing that I say to all of our young adults in our program. I say to them, you're Generation Z. So the baby boomers.
Say it again. Generation what?
Generation Z.
Say it again.
You're Generation Z.
For the people in the back.
For the people in the back, they are Generation Z.
Thank you.
So for the baby boomers and the Gen Xers, these are folks that didn't grow up with cell phones in their hand. Gen Z, from the time they were born, had cell phones in their hands. So the expectation is that you're at least somewhat competent in the use of social media. So young people, when you come do your SYEP internships, you should know a little bit about your summer youth employment internship. You know a little bit about how to run Snapchat or how to create some content for Instagram. You don't have to be an expert, but that's a skill you want to bring to the table. So
definitely. And I think not only for our youth and young adults, you can no longer be a workforce professional and just say, I don't do social media. That's no longer an answer. We're not allowing it. The industry has changed. Everybody does social media. I have a 70-year-old great aunt who is on Instagram, and she posts. Yep. And I was telling people, I was like, I was asking my cousins, I was like, are you posting that? They were like, no, Walter, she is posting that. She is doing her selfies at church. So if my 70-some-year-old great aunt can be on Instagram taking selfies at church with my great grandmother and family, you can be on social media. Yeah. Give us number 3. Instagram, Snapchat. What's number 3?
Number 3 would be Twitter. Our young adults are on Twitter, and here's the great thing about Twitter. It gives you the opportunity to interact with the sort of national and international conversations. So Twitter, for me, is not just about engaging with youth. It's engaging with other stakeholders that may be critical to your success in your program. So if I want to engage with a local youth shelter that may be serving the population that I'm serving, and I want to get them to send young people to us, I engage them on Twitter because those organizations are connecting on Twitter. If there's a certain hashtag, like, for example, there may be a hashtag about domestic violence awareness.
Or any kind of current trend.
Or any trend or issue. When that hashtag happens, we will upload posts related to that hashtag, and people around us, organizations, politicians around us will see and engage. And for us, that's been on Twitter specifically, that's been how we've been able to engage local politicians.
What do people call that? Trending.
Yes.
So a strategy, we're going to kind of get away from social media, but what Mr. Copeland is talking about is identifying what is the trend. When you're listening to the Today Show or Good Morning America, they say, what are the trending topics? So what you should do is when you get on a social media platform, go into the search button and find out what's trending of that day or what's trending even of that hour, because it can change minute by minute or hour by hour, and start using your post to and hashtag, that's the £, for people that don't know. Use that on your post to make sure you can be added to that trending section. So for those that didn't catch it, the number 1 social media engagement site we're seeing for this population is Instagram, IG, the gram. Number 2 is Snapchat. when people say snap me or follow me. Number 3 is Twitter. People, did you see what was not included? Facebook.
So let me comment on Facebook. Facebook may not be great for reaching this population, but it is excellent for reaching the community around this population.
And that's what you said about Twitter, too.
Yes.
You engage organizations and elected officials with Twitter, not as much the youth anymore on Twitter.
We do engage on Facebook, it's parents and grandparents. We engage them on Twitter. And I'm going to give you one more.
Facebook.
And Facebook, yes, I'm sorry. And I'm going to give you guys one more. And this is something that we use once we do get people into our program. Please check out Remind 101. Remind 101 and GroupMe are incredible apps that you can use. So Remind is a message app that educators use to send text messages to their young people. And it's great because the young people can sign up without necessarily giving their phone number to Mr. Copeland. So it allows them to have a level of privacy, but still be able to communicate. So a young person can enroll in my class, quote unquote, on Remind, and I can send out blast messages. So it's not enough to recruit on these social media sites. Once you get them in, you have to engage them. And you have to use certain apps, other social media apps that help. GroupMe is it's similar to WhatsApp, great group text message app.
So we talked about outreach and beating the street and just being everywhere, being in the community. And then Mr. Copeland said when you engage these groups, you have to provide respect to get them to know that they're in a safe environment, they're in a welcoming environment, and that they're actually not being talked down to, they're being spoke to and being engaged in a conversation. And then you brought up another R of being real. Yeah. And now we went on a little social media tangent, which you have to when you talk about young adults. But now I want to talk about how are you use these last few minutes to talk about how are we, once we get them in, we engage them, we find them, we connect with them, we GroupMe with them. Yeah. How are we preparing a young adult with severe barriers to employment in our, adult learning kind of programs to get them ready for employment?
So we design our curriculum in such a way that we hold a mirror to the young person. When we say real, we got to be honest. I want you to see yourself as you are, and I want you to see yourself through the lens of an employer. So we affirm you. You are incredible. You're valuable. All of those wonderful things. And we also say things like, we want you to code switch, not because your language is not valuable, but because we want you to have an extra language to be successful.
Code switching.
Define that. Code switching is applying the language, conduct, or attire that is appropriate for the scenario. Notice I didn't say valuable, better, or best. I said appropriate for the scenario. So, for example,
hold on before we get there, because we got a couple of minutes.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we talk about the communication, code switches, speaking the appropriate language based on the setting. What else are we helping them to prepare for the workforce?
So we're helping them with soft skills. We use the term 21st century skills. These are the skills that employers say are essential to success in the 21st century workplace. So conflict resolution, adaptability, leadership. Some of our young people they come into the workplace and they're capable. They can do whatever task you put in front of them. But the thing that they struggle with is being able to keep their cool if someone makes them angry.
Critical thinking skills, problem solving skills. So we put them in high pressure scenarios in the classroom so that they can model what appropriate behavior, appropriate conduct, appropriate conflict resolution skills should be. So what else are you adding in there? When you're talking about communication, you're talking about essential skills, soft skills, 21st century skills. What's next over the next 6 to 8 weeks when you're engaging with them? Over the 6 to 8 weeks, we connect with them about everything. So this could be the basics, resume writing, interviewing skills. I want a young person to walk into an interview, and when someone asks them, what's your weakness? They don't say, or they don't say, I don't have any. Right. I'm great. Yeah. We make sure we have a list of 61 common interview questions. We go through all 61 questions and make sure that you are prepared with an answer. Why? Because the truth, Walter, is that unfortunately, this is not the level of preparation that our young people receive prior to graduating high school. So they're being thrown out into the real world. And I've heard several young people say to me, I went on an interview and I had no idea. I think that's key. We're not really teaching essential skills or career readiness skills in our high schools or our K through 12 system. It's not, across the board. So, a big workforce program to our listeners, you have to really focus on essential skills and career readiness skills. including communication. Now, how are you preventing from a youth showing up on day one or day two or week one? And how do you keep them engaged through 6 weeks?
Well, one of the things I think is really important in youth programming is incentives. So for Keys, we pay our young people. They get a $50 stipend per day to attend. And some people may say, this is for you. I'm not paying you. Here's the reality. As an adult, you have bills, you have responsibilities. If you commit 4 hours a day to be somewhere, that's 4 hours of money that you're not making. So if our young people say, I'm going to be here 4 hours a day, 3 days a week for 8 weeks straight, we want them to be compensated, because while they're getting ready for their careers here, some of them have children. Some of them have responsibilities. We had a young woman who was an older sister who was caring for her 2 younger siblings, and there was no parent in the home. So her being here, she had to have some income.
You got to understand that. And that's why I say we're working with young adults.
Mm-hmm.
They have bills too. Yes. They have responsibilities. So you have to incentivize. You have to create program models, working with whatever budget you have to allow people to get some monetary incentives to keep them engaged. And that's something people try to stray away from. As a local workforce board director in Prince George County, my job is to make sure Mr. Copeland has the budget to do so. And we have had budget cuts locally. So what we work to do is leverage resources. Mm-hmm. If we're using an occupational skills training, can we figure out a way for a partner that provides tuition assistance? If we're finding supportive services, we partner with our local Department of Social Services to see where they can help us. Local directors, managers, supervisors, you have to provide the resources and tools to your programs and your frontline staff that allow them to be flexible with their budget to provide the services that are needed to keep people engaged. Mr. Copeland, what do you see about occupational skills training? I know your focus in your program hasn't heavily been on occupational skills training. You've still been able to get people into employment. But, kind of what is your take on occupational skills training in the sense of getting people employed?
So coming from College Access,
okay,
I'm going to tell you guys a little secret. I think occupational skills training is the best thing since sliced bread, especially in the Keys program. I can talk about our program because we offer them the opportunity to go to that training for free. We pay it, not for free. Training costs, but we pay for it at no expense to the participant.
Using our WIOA funds.
We're using our WIOA funds. Here's the great thing about that. They get skills training. They get certification that says I'm an expert at this, IT, HVAC, whatever it is, with no student loan debt.
Yep.
So when we talk about wealth building, we're talking about a young person that's coming out of an opportunity with a certification and no debt. So they're starting already a leg up.
So if you didn't hear that, if you're in Prince George's County and you need training, find us on social media at what?
At PGC Keys program.
PGC Keys. That's PGCKEYS. Or visit us at employpg.org. We will provide occupational skills training, but you also focus on internships and work-based learning. So what you're saying is you're using a blended model where we can take occupational skills training, what you're learning in the classroom, and then putting them on these job sites to be able to use them in the real world.
Yes, absolutely. And we couldn't do that without some incredible job site partners that we have. We have partners like the University of Maryland where, they'll offer a young person an opportunity to intern with them. And if a young person comes and they're great for 12 weeks, they may offer them full-time employment. So
you're reaching out to those employers of being a job site with the ending goal of actually being the employer. So you're basically offering the employer like a test run.
Yes.
Okay.
And so here's the great thing. Our business consultant, Mr. Michael Preston, will go out and he'll say I'll use Ruth Chris, for example. A young person says, Mr. Copeland, I want to be a chef. I can't pay through our program for you to go to culinary art school. But what we can do is go to Ruth Chris and ask them, would you take this young person on for 12 weeks to give them an opportunity? Ruth Chris is going to say, absolutely, because we don't have to pay for them. And we have great partners who, after that 12 weeks, that 3-month period, they'll take them on full time.
And to keep in mind, when you take somebody to a Ruth Chris or a top level restaurant, they can then take that 3 months of experience, put it on their resume.
Absolutely.
If they don't get picked up by Ruth Chris, they can always go back to Outback. They can get put in one of a local culinary training and be able to use that. A big part of the program that we use with Knowledge Equals Youth Success is career planning. We didn't touch on it, but at the beginning of the program, basically the first week is about who the youth is today, who does the youth want to be and how can we help them get there. That's how we develop their plans. We assess, and then we allow them to take these career interest assessments through the local labor exchange or ONET online and all these acronyms that we use today. And then we really have to translate that to what that means in reality. And that's how we create the career plan. And then all of our programs align with that youth career plan. One thing I want to point out is that, a lot of people have fun and they have vision board parties and they go home. But we don't use vision boards as a workforce development practice. One thing I like to brag about our youth program is, as a part of the youth project for their career plan, they do a vision board like you would see with any other entity. And I never really saw that in the workplace, in the workforce development space, and I saw that. So I would tell everybody, if you do a vision board party with your colleagues or friends at home, try it with your youth program. Do something different. Or really, do what you do in your personal life with these young adults, and you're really going to see a great change. So today, in summary, everybody and our listeners, we talked with Mr. Martin Copeland from our Prince George's County Disconnected Youth Program, Knowledge Equals Youth Success. You can find them where on social media, Mr. Copeland?
You can find us at PGC Keys Program.
PGC Keys on all social media platforms. We talked about the big 3 platforms, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. We're figuring out Snapchat. If you got any ideas, let us know. employpg.org. But you can also take some key takeaways with you from today. You got to get out in your community. Go to these non-traditional locations. You have to provide our young adults with respect and dignity. You have to be real. If you're a youth program that has 35, 45, 50-year-old workforce professionals, be who you are, and those youth will respect it. When you're talking about our programs, build resources, provide incentives, utilize occupational skills training tools, but also be able to blend internships and work-based learning with occupational skills training and partner with your local businesses to provide a well-rounded program for your youth today. This is the Workforce Wire, brought to you by Employ Prince George's. If you are a partner and you want to provide a tip, you want to provide us with some information, connect with us on social media at Employ PG. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're everywhere. LinkedIn. You can follow us everywhere. I'm Walter Simmons. You can follow me. If you want to learn more about the Keys program, you can follow them on social media at PGC Keys. If you are a youth, a young adult, a grandmother with a disconnected youth on your couch, call us. 301-618-8400. Again, find us online at employpg.org. Thank you for listening to the Workforce Wire. Thank you, Mr. Copeland, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.